It was the most shocking atrocity story about Iraq's invasion of Kuwait.
They took the babies out of the incubators. Took the incubators and left the children to die on the cold floor.
What if I told you that one carefully scripted lie, a story told by a trembling 15-year-old girl, led an entire nation into war? A war costing thousands of lives, billions of dollars, and forever altering the course of history. One lie, one carefully staged manipulation, one emotional and disheartening testimony by a 15-year-old girl, and an entire war was born.
I stayed behind and wanted to do something for my country. The second week after invasion, I volunteered at the Al-Adan hospital with 12 other women who wanted to help as well. I was the youngest volunteer. The other women were from 20 to 30 years old. While I was there, I saw the Iraqi soldiers come into the hospital with guns. They took the babies out of the incubators. Took the incubators and left the children to die on the cold floor. It was horrifying. I could not help but think of my nephew.
This testimony shook the world. It brought powerful men to tears and pushed the United States of America into the Gulf War. But beneath these tears was a dangerous web of deception, manipulation, and hidden agendas. But how exactly did the tearful words of a teenager deceive the most powerful nation on earth? What did she say to deceive the United States into launching a brutal war? Who was really behind this deadly manipulation? And why should Africa think twice before inheriting enemies from those who perfected the art of deception? Stay with me, because what you are about to uncover isn't just a shocking truth. It's a powerful lesson in how easily entire nations can be manipulated, and why Africa must never rush blindly into the battles of others. This is the story they never wanted you to know. Stay with me as we unravel this story. On October 10, 1990, a gripping testimony was delivered before the United States Congressional Human Rights Caucus. A young Kuwaiti girl, known only as Nayirah, spoke with trembling voice and tears streaming down her face. She described Iraqi soldiers invading a hospital in Kuwait, cruelly removing 15 babies from their incubators and leaving them to die on cold, unforgiving floors. Now, this disheartening account moved the world, igniting fury and outrage like everyone was pissed. But what was hidden from the world and intentionally kept secret was Nayirah's true identity. She wasn't just some regular traumatized Iraqi witness. Nayirah was in fact the 15-year-old daughter of Saud Nasser al-Saud al-Sabah, the Kuwaiti ambassador to the United States at the time the testimony was made. She and her father were members of the House of Sabah, the ruling family of Kuwait. And unbeknownst to millions, her fictitious testimony had been carefully scripted and orchestrated by Citizens for a Free Kuwait, an organization funded directly by the Kuwaiti government. But it was only after the war did Americans learn the shocking truth. 10 months after the ceasefire, journalist John MacArthur exposed in a New York Times editorial that Nayirah was far from an ordinary Kuwaiti teenager, and seated just 4 chairs away, unacknowledged during her emotional performance, was her father, Saud Nasser al-Sabah himself. And contrary to her claim, Nayirah had never volunteered at the Al-Adan hospital in Hadiyah. She had only visited once, and during that brief visit, she witnessed none of the horrors she described. In fact, the story of Iraqi soldiers removing babies from incubators never even happened, because the incubator story was a myth, a rumor that had been circulating among Kuwaitis in Britain and in the United States. And this rumor had been treated as fact by the Daily Telegraph, London, and then the Los Angeles Times. However, in a deeper sense, it was not just a rumor, it was a weaponized story. And Nayirah's adaptation of this rumor as her own was the result of coaching by Hill and Knowlton, the PR firm hired by Citizens for a Free Kuwait, a US-based organization bankrolled by the Kuwaiti government to lobby Congress for military intervention in Kuwait. So, under CFK's direction, Hill and Knowlton didn't just write a script. They selected and rehearsed every witness who testified during that hearing. It was a theater masquerading as truth. Now, it's also very important to understand one crucial detail. The Congressional Human Rights Caucus, despite operating similarly to an official congressional committee, did not require testimony to be given under oath. Now, what this means is that Nayirah faced no legal consequences even if her story was entirely fabricated. There was no legal consequences for her whatsoever because she was not under oath. So, though invented, her resonant account of Iraqi soldiers' brutality was nonetheless crucial in authorizing the state's own story of humanitarian crusade in the Middle East.
These are some of the controversial incubators. When the Iraqi occupiers heard the story that they'd stolen them and killed babies in the process, they invited journalists into Kuwait hospitals to see for themselves. But the story persisted until independent investigators arrived on the scene. Then the picture started changing. The doctor who gave Amnesty the information that 312 babies died revised the number down to 72. It finally settled at 30, of which 19 died before the Iraqis arrived.
The story evaporated.
Now, you see how propaganda and manipulation work. This organization, Citizens for a Free Kuwait, CFK, actually hired the powerful American public relations firm, Hill and Knowlton, to script, cast, rehearse, and perform this whole political ballyhoo. And a vice president from this firm personally organized the congressional hearings where Nayirah spoke and gave this heart-wrenching testimony of Iraqi soldiers unaliving Kuwaiti babies in the most horrendous and abhorrent manner. You see? And if you really want to understand just how deep this conspiracy ran, think about this. The two US congressmen who co-chaired the hearing, Tom Lantos and John Porter, were not just innocent bystanders. they knew who Nayirah really was. Plus, they had close ties to Hill and Knowlton, the very same PRO firm that coached Nayirah. Yet, they helped keep her identity hidden, claiming it was necessary to protect her family in occupied Kuwait. However, John Porter later claimed he didn't know Nayirah's identity at the time of the testimony, but he still defended the testimony. You see, no apology, no accountability, just deflection. Classic Western deflection, right? Can you relate? They will lie, deceive, manipulate, and when caught, they won't apologize. They will gaslight you instead. They will make you feel crazy for daring to notice the deception. Just like Christopher Columbus, who landed in the Bahamas, met the people of Guanahani, and still insisted he had reached India. And the people, they were like, hey dude, we are not Indians, we are Tainos. And this here, this is not India, it is Guanahani. He ignored them. He renamed the place to San Salvador, called the people Indians, and he named the region West Indies. Oimbo, they're not there, accept. And the most appalling thing is that Columbus clung to his delusion until his death, still refusing to admit he was wrong and that he never got to India. That's the same energy. A system that would rather rewrite maps, rename people, and restructure reality itself than ever admit fault. However, luckily for me, earlier today, someone commented on my post. I posted some photos. Someone commented and called me a glitch in the system. Deep, right? But that is what we are, right? A glitch in their system.
Kids in incubators, and they were thrown out of the incubators so that Kuwait could be systematically dismantled.
The hardest thing was burying the babies. I myself buried 14 newborn babies that had been taken from their incubators by the soldiers.
Will those in favor
In a vote 2 days later, the UN approved the use of force against Iraq.
At the hearing, Hill and Knowlton had a clear mission: to craft a compelling and emotionally irresistible narrative. Kuwait was portrayed as a blossoming democracy, a modernizing nation championing women's rights, an innocent victim on the brink of destruction, while Saddam Hussein, on the other hand, was cast as a ruthless dictator seeking to crush this liberal oasis and expand his authoritarian reach through colonization. In a nutshell, the stage was perfectly set for moral outrage. President George Herbert Walker Bush seized on this imagery, invoking Nayirah's upsetting testimony, the incubator story, 6 times in his speeches.
And they had kids in incubators, and they were thrown out of the incubators so that Kuwait could be systematically dismantled.
Now, it didn't just end there. Senators followed suit. 7 US senators cited this heart-rending testimony explicitly as a critical reason for authorizing military action, comparing their alleged atrocity to the horrors committed by the Nazis. The narrative, though fabricated, worked precisely as intended. The United States swiftly plunged into the Gulf War, and the world had been expertly manipulated into believing a lie. Yet, this deceitful tactic was not new. Africa's history with the West is filled with similar manipulations, fake treaties, exaggerated threats, manufactured crises, such as the Benin Massacre, all designed to justify colonial invasions and exploitative wars. Our ancestors watched as foreign lies dismantled their kingdoms, robbed their resources, and fractured their societies. Today, Africa finds itself once again in the crosshairs of global deception. The same powers that scripted Nayirah's lie now return, but in a different way. They are demanding our loyalty, urging us to choose their enemies as our own. 1 minute, President Putin is the devil. The next, Ibrahim Traoré is accused of stealing the country's gold and using it for himself. What about Abdurrahman Tchiani? He's dismissed as just another power-hungry junta leader. But before we inherit their outrage, we must pause, because we have seen this script before. We must remember our greatest mistake would be to forget the lessons of the past.
Mid-20th century is Africa's. This decade is the decade of African independence. Forward then to independence.
Papa Kwame Nkrumah warned, we face neither east nor west. We face forward. Africans, forward. Forward. As proud Africans, let us not rush blindly into wars scripted by outsiders. We must question every narrative, demanding transparency and truth. Our strength lies in our unity and the wisdom of our forebears. So, Africa, we must never again be pawns in foreign schemes. While the West choreographs its wars and distractions, our leaders, too many of them, play along. Many of them who are puppets to these ventriloquists, they play along, turning us against one another to keep us from seeing the bigger picture. They keep us distracted. In Nigeria today, we are facing a kind of ethnic division we have never seen before.
Guys, I follow in the illustration, there is a map. If you check that map and you are looking for the word beneath people are foolish, you will never find it in that map. If you check the map and you're looking for the phrase Oba of Benin is an idiot, you will never find such statements in that map. No insult on Benin. Benin Oba is mad, never, you will find it there. He is crazy, Benin Kingdom are idiot. No.
Tribal supremacy has replaced national unity. Ethnic tension has replaced the common good. Petty rivalries and dangerous propaganda. Some have made it their life's mission, their life's work, to ignite tensions, distracting us from our common goal. Many have made it their life's work to stoke the flame of division. Go to TikTok, X. People sit on TikTok, they are there rewriting other people's history, hijacking identities, repackaging myth into propaganda. Like, people sit on TikTok live sessions almost every day of the week. Others are on X, Twitter, spreading misinformation, hijacking other people's internal history and retrofitting it into their own myth, all in the name of tribal supremacy. But listen carefully. We see you We know you. And we are done being distracted. We are done letting foreign lies become African truths. We must rise. Not as Hausa, not as Igbo, not as Yoruba, or Edo, Zulu, Wolof, or Amhara. No, but as Africans. One people, one truth, and one future. Because the next lie, the next Nayirah, might not just lead to war. It might lead us to our end. So we say again, remember Nayirah. Question everything and choose your path. Africa, it's time to start questioning everything.